Okay, so let's begin with our lecture today. Now, in our previous lecture, where we had dealt with the scaling theory, that was part one, we were investigating about the influence of downscaling of the device with respect to the device parameters only. Okay, so now in today's lecture, what we are going to do is we are going to look into in a much more practical sense what is the influence of scaling on the circuit performance perspective. Okay, so in a previous lecture, this one topic was still left. I missed it. That is the device length. So usually, what we will be saying is that if it is device length or any length for that matter, will scale by a factor of 1 upon k, right? So we have seen that any parameter x dash changes by x by l, x by k, where k is greater than 1. Correct? That is what we have always been seeing. So instead of x, it can be the depletion width also. I know anything. But in case of the Debye length, what we will observe is that it will change by a factor of root over alpha k. Notice that this was the formula of the Debye length. The only parameter in this expression which changes with scaling, which is affected by scaling, is this NA. Now we know that Na changes by alpha k into Na, right? So therefore, Debye length changes by a factor of 1 upon root over alpha k. Very simple. Now, what we understand from there is if we go to our previous lecture, we can essentially add up. Just a second. I'll stop this and share this window. Okay. So this was previous day's class. What I shall do is I will just add this concept of Debye length, which unit is essentially nanometers. Irrespective of whether it is long channel or nanoscale, that is velocity velocity saturation regime, it will always be 1 upon root over alpha k. When we are essentially speaking about the constant field scaling, okay, then the variation becomes 1 upon root over k. Why? Because constant field scaling means alpha will be equal to 1. Yeah? So that becomes 1 upon root over k. So on the other hand, when we are speaking about the constant voltage scaling, when alpha equal to k, remember we don't bother about going for constant voltage scaling anyway. And today things will become much more clearer when we look into the circuit. Uh, I mean, the influence of scaling on circuits. If influence of scaling on circuits is even more problematic, we will see. So the constant voltage scaling, when alpha equal to k, it simply becomes 1 upon root over k square, that is 1 upon k. So ideally, what we understand is that the Debye length decreases more rapidly in case of the constant voltage scaling, which actually is better. Okay, so if you notice that we if we consider the two scaling mechanisms, one is a constant field scaling, the other one is constant voltage scaling, you will always notice that you are going to have some of the points better in voltage scaling, some of the points better in constant field scaling. So if the Debye length is smaller, that is an advantage, right? Because instead of 1 upon root over k, if it is 1 upon k, okay, 1 upon k is going to be better. 1 upon k is going to be smaller. Okay, that means you can essentially have a, I mean, you can essentially get even smaller devices if you are doing it in constant voltage scaling. Smaller devices mean that, I mean, the Debye length will be even smaller than that. So it's easier. However, now in today's lecture, we are going to look into the circuits aspects, and that is where it will be a game changer altogether. So So the scaling theory which we are going to finish off today is kind of the sort of the completion of the standard or conventional uh, syllabus, standard syllabus for the microelectronic devices course. Okay, after this class is over. However, we will be having another 2 to 3 weeks left, right? So over there, we will essentially understand the various short channel effects and how to take care of them, and we will eventually go into FinFETs and the modern technologies, which will be sort of the solutions to the short channel effects. Okay, so the first topic today is the drift current. So if it is a drift current, then we know the equation for it, like area multiplied by NQ into VD. So VD or V drift. So this is essentially the portion which is coming from the drift current density formula. Okay, and here is the area, because remember NQ VDR is simply the drift current density. So you have to multiply with the area. All right. Now, what are the factors over here which will scale? Obviously, the current scales, area scales, N number of free carriers will change with scaling. Q doesn't scale with changing, with doesn't change with scaling, and the drift velocity also changes with scaling. Now, area, how does it scale? Area is basically dimension square, so 1 upon k square. How does n dash scale? That is n scale. N scales with alpha into k into n. Q into VDR. VDR changes with alpha into VDR. Okay. So here, if you notice that this k and k cancels, and you will be getting one alpha square by k factor in front of the ID. So this is for the long channel MOS transistor. Why is it long channel? Since we are assuming that V drift is proportional to, so we are thinking like V drift is equal to mu n into the field. So this is going to be true only for long channel devices. All right. So that is how we got this factor alpha square by k. However, when we are speaking about ultra short channel device like the nanoscale device, velocity saturation, we will be looking into the velocity saturation regime after a couple of classes. And that will be sort of, the short channel effect. That will we will learn the velocity saturation regime under the short channel effects. And we are going to look into devices and circuit techniques to take care of that short channel effect, that problems of the short channel effect. We will also see that. So in the velocity saturation regime, what we understand is that instead of alpha into VDR, the drift velocity remains constant. Okay, so that was something which we have seen in our previous lecture. Okay, so 1 upon k square, that is because of A. N dash scales like alpha into k into n. Q does not scale, that is electronic charge anyway. However, instead of alpha VDR, we will be having VDR sat because it is velocity saturation regime. So the velocity, drift velocity is already saturated. So it's not going to scale anymore. Okay. So as you can see, you'll be left with alpha by k into ID. Okay. So that means when you are scaling the device from 350 nanometer to 250 nanometer, then this is the scaling factor. When you are scaling from 14 nanometer to 7 nanometer, then this is the scaling factor. Okay, so let us put that in the table. So drift current. Okay, I have just arbitrarily chosen the standard unit, microamperes. So it will be alpha square by k or alpha by k. So under constant field scaling, if you notice, that means alpha is equal to 1, you will be having 1 by k, irrespective of whether it is long channel or velocity saturation. In either case, this is alpha square, this is alpha. So when alpha is equal to 1, then constant field scaling is always 1 upon k, correct? So, but on the other hand, if we are speaking about the constant voltage scaling, now see the major problems. In case of constant voltage scaling, what do we find? That if alpha is equal to k, then it becomes k square by k. This is k by k. So that means either it will become k device, For velocity saturation, that means nanoscale device, it will be only 1. So that means your current increases. So if the current increases, what will happen? Your device power consumption will increase rapidly, isn't it? At the same time, you might be thinking that, well, that is a good thing, even though the power consumption increases, but it will be able to drive more amount of power at the output. But the problem is that if the current increases, what is the issue? It is essentially going to increase uh, it is essentially going to the reliability of the device will essentially become a problem, because you are anyway speaking about very scaled devices, right? So the devices are very small in size, and on top of that, if the voltages have been scaled already, in this case, of course, voltage remains the same, then the fields will be high, currents will be high, and the device can go into breakdown very, very easily. So from the perspective of the device reliability itself, we cannot afford doing this, even though the current increases. Got it? Now, that was only the first part where we are finding that constant field scaling is better. Then we will go to the delays. You have learned about circuit delays in this semester. In the next semester, we'll be dealing with circuit delays in a much, much more uh, detailed way. So how do you get the delays? Irrespective of which delay we are speaking about, it's primarily boils down to the charge across a particular node, that means some kind of capacitive charge, divided by the current which is flowing through that capacitor. So that means if it is, let us say, a simple inverter, okay, then if we know that the load capacitor CL can hold a amount of charge which is Q, and the current which it can either sink or it can basically discharge is essentially given by capital I, then the time taken to charge from 0 to VDD or from discharge from VDD to 0 is essentially given by Q by the current, this current I, isn't it? So what it means is, if you are essentially thinking about the time taken to charge and discharge the load capacitor, that is effectively the same thing as saying the amount of time required to either convert the voltage over here from change the voltage level from voltage state from 0 to 1 or from 1 to 0. All right. So in fact, if you want to do that, then it is essentially a matter of the current and the charge which is being stored. Okay. There is a very, very interesting concept called charge sharing. Have you learned that in your VLSI design? Hello?
Yes,
Charge
sir.
sharing हुआ है क्या?
Yes, sir.
It was done, right? Yeah,
Yes,
great.
sir.
So this charge sharing is essentially got to do with the amount of charges which are being shared by the each of the individual interim nodes between the different stages. It's a very, very important concept. Okay, so finally it becomes a matter of how much charge is there and how much current you are able to charge or discharge. So basically the delay can be given as the charge divided by the current. Now this charges will essentially be some capacitance around and the voltage across it. So C into VDD. In digital circuits, usually it is VDD itself. So what are the scaling parameters? Tau, C, VDD, and ID. All of them will scale, correct? So what you are left with is the capacitance scales. Remember, this capacitance is terminal capacitance. So remember, in our previous lecture, we had seen it is 1 upon K, right? So 1 upon K into C. That means the C dash scales as 1 upon K. So the scaling factor is 1 upon K, and this is C. So the C dash can be CGS, CGG, CGD, whatever. These are absolute terminal capacitances. I'm not speaking about per unit area. All right. So once we have that, that is 1 upon K into C. Okay. VDD, again, it's a voltage, right? So voltage or potential, how do how does that scale? Alpha by k into VDD. ID, how does ID scale? We have already. So ID scales either by alpha square by k into ID or alpha by k into ID. So I'm just going to put that. Once I'll put k by alpha square because it is in the denominator. Other one I will put k by alpha. You can simplify this, you are left with this. Okay. So now, so for the long channel MOS transistor, it is going to be 1 upon alpha k. For the velocity saturation regime or nanoscale, it is 1 upon k. So if we write that here, circuit delays 1 upon alpha k, 1 upon k. Now again, getting back over here. For constant field scaling, that means alpha equal to 1, this becomes simply 1 upon k. So that means, what does it imply? It simply means that the delays will, by the way, if you notice, if you're putting alpha equal to 1, then this also turns into 1 upon k, and velocity saturation also it becomes 1 upon k. So in the constant field scaling, it is 1 upon k. So that means we can understand that if we are able to scale the device, we scale the technology, we are essentially getting an improvement in the circuit delay. Circuit delays are decreased. Awesome. But look at the constant voltage scaling. If you put alpha equal to k, then there are two options here. What we understand is this 1 upon k square seem to be even more attractive than our 1 upon k for the constant field scaling, right? But remember that in this case, whenever you are scaling the technology node, it's very difficult for us to identify whether the device has suddenly gone into the velocity saturation or not. Okay, so that means depending on whether it is in velocity saturation regime or it's still performing like a long channel, on the basis of that itself, it is going to have 1 upon k square or 1 upon k. So the issue with that is your circuit designs will change. Okay, but we always want to have the same value of delay, irrespective of whether it is going into the velocity saturation or it's still continuing in the long channel or the devices. There is a change in the operation of the device, which we will see in the next few classes. Notice that even the current changes, as you can notice it. But in constant field scaling, what is the advantage? So what I'm trying to tell you is, suppose you are scaling from 180 nanometer to 14 nanometer directly. That's a huge factor, right? 140, like 180 to 7 nanometer, let us say. So if you are going for such a huge amount of scaling, then if you are doing constant field scaling, you don't have to bother whether the equations have changed or not. You just know that if you are doing constant field scaling, the equation remains the same. Okay, irrespective of whether the device has started working in the velocity saturation regime or not, or the ballistic regime or not. In fact, that is a foolproof way. So that means if we are speaking about the latest technology nodes, like people are now, they have started working on 5 nanometer technology node. So in 5 nanometers, it's 100% velocity saturation. But if you are, as long as you are maintaining the constant field scaling, you don't have to bother about this factor. And accordingly, you can get an estimate about the circuit delay, drift current, and everything based on your results, which you already had in an established technology node like 180 nanometers. Okay, so that irrespective of whether it is the device is going into the velocity saturation or not, still you can use the same scaling factors as mentioned here, and you can, in the case of constant voltage scaling, we see that there is an ambiguity. Okay. All right. So we have seen about the circuit delays, and now we will go for the power dissipation. Very simple again. Power dissipation में क्या करेंगे हम लोग? We will just multiply the current. Okay. The voltage here is the rail to rail VDD into the current. VDD scales alpha by K. ID scales by what factor? ID again has two different, alpha square by K, and the other one is alpha by K, depending on whether it is long channel, or I shouldn't call it away, because short channel is essentially like, let us say, 180 nanometer itself is also short channel, submicron. But the thing is, velocity saturation is a different ball game altogether when it is going to in the order of 10 nanometers. So in the 10 nanometer regime, that velocity saturation takes nanoscale. In that situation, it is simply alpha by K. Here is alpha square by K. So if you do the simplification, it becomes alpha square by K square. This is alpha cube by K square. Again, the major advantage. Alpha cube by K square, alpha square by K square. First of all, if you are doing constant, to forget about it. What we observe is the power dissipation simply increases because K is greater than 1. Okay, so that is not even an option for us. And on the other hand, if you are doing constant field scaling, what is the advantage? Alpha is always 1. So irrespective of long channel or velocity saturation regime, it is always going to be 1 upon K square. So if somebody asks you in the interviews, like what are the advantages of scaling? This is going to be one of the major ones. So if you scale the technology, especially in constant field scaling, please understand that. So if you are using constant field scaling, then not only you are going to reduce the power from K to 1 upon K square, on the top of it, your device operation or the circuit performance will become independent of whether the device is actually operating in the velocity saturation or in the conventional transport in long channel device. Understood? Very nice. Now again, power delay product. This is a very, very important metric in case of digital IC designs. So in the power delay product, what are we going to do? Simply power multiplied by the delay. Now both of these are available with us. So alpha cube by K square into P for the scaled power, okay? And then for the scaled delay, that is for the long channel, it will be 1 upon alpha K into tau. So this will cancel and you are left with alpha square by K cubed. And for velocity saturation, what do we get? Simply this alpha square by K square into P into 1 upon K into tau. So that becomes alpha square by K cubed. Wow. So first of all, even using alpha and K, we understand that they are the same factors. So if, as far as power delay product is concerned, okay, here, it is always alpha square by K cubed. Now, clearly, if you are putting K alpha equal to 1, that is constant field scaling, again, you notice it becomes 1 upon K cubed. Excellent, right? So, for example, I have already like emphasized earlier that when we are designing analog IC designs, our metric will be GBW, gain bandwidth product. When we are designing digital circuitry, our metrics will be PDP, power delay product. So in case of analog circuits, this GBW should be increased as much as possible. In case of digital circuitry, we need to reduce this PDP as much as possible. Okay, so remember, like gain and the bandwidth is a product. So that means if you say that if I want to increase the gain, very simple, you reduce the bandwidth. And remember, if you are dealing with the Bode plot, you must have seen that it goes like this. So that means if you are applying very high frequency here, your gain is very less. On the contrary, if you are making a circuit such that the cutoff is here, then obviously the gain is much, much increased. So what we essentially require is the area under this curve, which is the gain bandwidth. So here is the gain, of course, Bode plot. So the area under the curve is what we are essentially looking for. So this area should be increased in case of analog circuits. In case of digital, which we will see in our next semester, our objective will be to reduce PDP as much as practicable, as much as possible. So if you notice here, it is 1 upon k cubed. Whereas in constant voltage scaling, if you put alpha equal to k, it becomes simply 1 upon k. Of course, PDP reduces in constant voltage scaling also. So that means in general, if you are scaling the technology, आपका PDP कम होना ही है. Definitely going to reduce, but it reduces much more rapidly in case of constant field scaling. Okay, that's great. Now we will come to the next part, which is power density. Now power density is a very important concept. What does it mean? Once you have got a chip, okay, so suppose this is a chip area on the die. You have made this chip. Now in this chip, power density simply means that in which portion of the chip you are basically having lot of power. So power in the sense, like, I mean, the power density should essentially be distributed throughout the chip for better reliability. So what we usually do is, like, there will be power rails which are running at the periphery of the chip and essentially going in between for giving the power supply to various circuits. Now, the whole idea is that to distribute the power density so that any particular region of that chip should not be heated up or should not be very high at any point of time. Okay, so that is the whole idea about the power density. So the power density should be as low as possible. Okay, again, as you notice, all power density is the total power dissipation divided by the area of the chip. That's the average power density, so to speak. So if you notice, it is P dash scales by, that is the power scales by alpha cube by k square. So I've done that for long channel. For velocity saturation, it is alpha square by k square. So you are left with, but the area scales by 1 upon k square. These will cancel and you are left with alpha cube and k square. So in the case of power density, what we understand is the scaling factor becomes alpha cubed for long channel, and for velocity saturation, it is only alpha square. Now, if we are dealing with the constant field scaling, again, see the advantage. Alpha is equal to 1. So if you're scaling the technology in such a manner that the fields remain the same, we can ensure that the power density remains unchanged with scaling. Excellent. So that means, as far as your reliability issues are concerned, your 7 nanometer FinFET is supposed to be as much robust as your 22 nanometer FinFET, as long as you are dealing with constant field scaling. Okay. On the contrary, if you look at the constant voltage scaling, alpha equal to k, so it becomes k cube and k square. So the power density, it becomes extremely high. As I said, our objective is to reduce the power density as much as possible. Okay, so this becomes extremely high. Now, another very important criteria for IC designers, that is circuit density. So that means in the given chip area, okay, in the given chip area, let us say, what is the concentration of various circuit components inside that chip? Okay, so that is essentially a topic mostly dealt with the architecture, embedded systems people, architecture people, because over there they are essentially thinking about routing and placement rather than the actual circuit designs. So over in that particular situation, people will be thinking about the circuit density. So in the circuit density, it is basically number of circuits per unit area. Again, number doesn't scale, but area scales by a factor of k square. So irrespective of whether it is volt, since it is k square, it doesn't involve alpha, irrespective of field scaling, constant field scaling, या फिर constant voltage scaling, they are always k square. Okay, so what do we understand? That if we are reducing the size dimensions with scaling, okay, so if we scale the technology node, obviously it is pretty obvious that the number of components inside the chip will increase. Okay, so we can essentially go for higher and higher orders of integration, circuit integration, right? So that is the whole meaning of that. We always keep on telling, right? So we can incorporate more circuit components inside that IC, but we are speaking in English. We are speaking in terms of mathematics. So if somebody suddenly asks you, okay, you are saying that if we scale the technology, one of the major advantages of scaling technology is that you can add more functionality to your chip. So if you are adding more functionality to your chip, what does it mean? You are essentially adding more circuits, right? So how do you quantify that? This is the thing. So if you scale the technology by a factor of k, where k is greater than 1, okay, then the number of circuit components which you can add inside the chip will increase by a factor of k square. Okay, that's excellent. Okay, now one of the problems of scaling, that is the off current. Okay, I have already discussed this when we were talking about the subthreshold leakage and all that, right? That means if your VT changes, remember from here, if the VT changes to here, what do you understand? So this is your off current. Earlier, the off current was practically zero. Okay, so if your technology scales, then VT gradually reduces. VT doesn't scale, by the way, but it reduces somewhat. So if VT reduces, what happens? But remember, subthreshold slope is something which is roughly constant with MOSFETs, right? You cannot go below 60 millivolts per decade. So if you are essentially pushing these characteristics more and more towards the y-axis, that is the log ID axis, what will happen? Your off current goes on increasing. Okay, it goes on increasing, but by how much? That is again dealt with in the general scaling theory. So here I have used the off current, that means the subthreshold current equation. Okay, so what are the factors that will scale here? Notice I of current, of course, scales. C of scales, W and L scales, but again W and L scales by the same factor, W by K, L by K. So this KK cancels here. Cox scales by K into Cox. Remember, this is capacitance per unit area. Okay, whereas in this case, it was absolute capacitance, that is terminal capacitance. That's why it was 1 upon K. Here, Cox is per unit area, so it was K. All right. VOV scales, but VOV scales as a voltage, but there is also an exponential term, so that influence is very, very less. So what finally boils down to is this factor K. So that means your off current rapidly goes on increasing by a factor of K. So that means if you are scaling the technology from 14 nanometer to 7 nanometer, socho is baat ko, you are essentially getting roughly double the current off current. Okay, so it means that you are essentially, this is one of the major issue with scaling. And this is where I will stop here today, because uh, whatever we have been doing for the last two lectures, the previous one and today's lecture, is that we have essentially dealt with all the various advantages of scaling. Okay, so when we are speaking about scaling, it's almost invariably constant field scaling. That part is, I think, clear with you by now. So whenever we are speaking about scaling, we are always talking about constant field scaling alone. Okay, nobody talks about constant voltage scaling anymore. So with the generalized scaling theory, we came to know that if we scale the technology node with the help of constant field scaling, we have got like so many advantages. There are even more, but I think this is where I should stop. Now, the one thing which I am already able to show you, that this is a detrimental problem. We should actually think about keeping the I-off as low as possible. Okay, so this is where we find that the scaling is not helping us anymore. It's becoming a problem for us. Okay, so in the next class, we are going to begin with lots and lots of problems of scaling. So as of now, we have seen for the last two lectures, what are the advantages of scaling? Now we are going to look into the disadvantages of scaling, and then we will pick up each and every disadvantage and we will discuss, sometimes mathematically with modeling, sometimes if the modeling becomes too tough or beyond the scope of this course, then we will just explain it physically. Okay, so that you will understand the short channel effects. Short channel effects, I mean the problems of short channel effects. And then we will pick each of the short channel effects and try to find out an engineering solution to that problem. Okay, for example, this off current. What is the easiest way to deal with this? You already know how to deal with it. I have already discussed this in class, so I expect at least one of you to answer.
Sir, extrapolate VT.
That is basically from a circuit designer's perspective of making sure that the circuit will be able to withstand this thing. But the off current extrapolate VT, so I mean, अगर आप VT extrapolate करते भी हो, how does it affect the off current? You are just suggesting whether this is the point of VT or this is the point of VT. So if you are putting it over here, your circuit will be slightly more robust. But that doesn't essentially imply that आपका static power dissipation, which is essentially when the circuit is switched off, okay, then the leakage current.
SS has to be decreased.
SS has to be decreased. Okay, so basically that is what I have shown over here. So this is the inverse subthreshold slope, right? So this is your
Gate control. Gate control has to be efficient.
Gate control, no, that will be, gate control has to increase for another subthreshold slope. I mean another small SCE, short channel effect. That's called GIDL. Gate induced drain leakage. Another one is DIBL. Drain induced barrier lowering. We will all look into it in the next few classes. However, this gate control, and that is the reason why we are having FinFETs in modern technology. Okay, so that means instead of a typical gate structure like this, okay, where the surface area is only the surface area means basically the silicon surface is only this much. Here the silicon surface expands all around this tri-gate structure. Okay, so this is a tri-gate, and which is essentially the precursor of FinFETs. Okay, so now the thing is, so this is basically the 3D architecture. So that basically increases what your friend has just said. You are simply increasing the gate control by increasing the silicon dioxide interface. Okay, but that doesn't essentially help in this one. So for this, you have to essentially deal with reduction of the subthreshold slope. Okay, now if you remember that formula, subthreshold slope was given by ln10. ln10 is basically 2.303. So let me just simply write 2.3 m phi t. Phi t, you cannot do much about it. Of course, you can operate the device at a lower temperature. Phi t is kT by q. Okay, so if you operate at lower temperatures, your subthreshold slope will decrease. Okay, but You cannot always ensure that, because if your device starts operating, starts working much faster, or if you are giving a lot of calculation to work on, then what happens is this kt by q will increase, and essentially phi t, you don't have much control over phi t. So that's the whole story. But you do have control over small m. So small m is equal to how much? 1 plus c depletion by cox, right? You can of course try to reduce the c depletion as much as possible. Okay, you can try and reduce c dep as much as possible. You can, because what happens is cox is almost invariably much larger than cdep. So if the cdep is much smaller, then you can essentially deal something about it. So cdep decrease karna matlab, remember what was the cdep? I could have written c depletion by cox, right? So depletion is equal to epsilon si by wdm. cox is equal to epsilon ox by tox. Okay, so epsilon si is 11.7, this is 3.9. Epsilon naught, this is 11.7. Epsilon naught cancel karo. 3.9 is roughly 3. I mean, exactly 11.7 by 3.9 is 3 only, but we have chosen 11.7 and 3.9. That itself is approximate. So anyway, so you are finally left with 3 tox by wdm. So the only way, okay, to ensure that small m is as low as possible, आप क्या कर सकते हो? You can essentially increase WDM, correct? Because if you are scaling the technology, your TOX will anyway reduce. Okay, so the only way by which you can make small m as low as possible, small m को अगर कम करना है, so as I told you, the only way you can reduce substitute slope is reduce small m, or you reduce phi t. Phi t can be reduced by changing the temperature, but temperature, as I said, it's not always in your control. That is the end user part. आप circuit design कर रहे हो, device design कर रहे हो, you have no control over how your chip will be used by your customers. Correct. So this is beyond your control mostly. But small m you have to work on. So small m कैसे कम कर सकते हो? TOX you can reduce. I mean, you can reduce means it will always reduce anyway. Remember, TOX is part of the scaling general scaling theory. Then how are you going to increase WDM? So that small m reduces, so that substitute slope reduces, so that you get lower off current. तो WDM कैसे बढ़ा सकते हो? We will deal with this in details later on, of course. Okay, let's stop here. I want you to think about it, discuss among your friends, and we will anyway answer this in details as the solution of the short channel effects. So as you can clearly understand, the problem is very clear. I have already written one issue with short channel. That is, your off current will increase by a factor of k. ऐसा नहीं है कि okay, the I off has increased by 2 nanoamperes. No, it multiplies, yaar. So that means if earlier your off current was say 20 nanoampere, now it is 40, because you have just scaled by a factor of 2. It just multiplies. It 20 nanoampere doesn't become 25 nanoampere, it becomes 40 nanoampere. Okay, so we have to deal about this. So the easiest way to do it is subthreshold slope ko kam karna. If you want to reduce subthreshold slope, the only option you have got, the only knob you have got to tweak is basically small m. Small m matlab 3 TOX by WDM. TOX is anyway, it becomes smaller, but still if you want to make it even more smaller, what you have to do is you have to increase WDM. So how to increase WDM in a short channel device? So remember, you cannot think, okay, although we are scaling the technology node, so we will reduce TOX, but we will keep WDM like 1 millimeter. No, you cannot do it because your WDM also scales. So now think about it as an engineer. आप क्या कर सकते हो
Sir,
कि that the device depth, the substrate size is also decreasing. At the same time, your WDM will increase. Huh? Tell me.
sir, can we increase the concentration of substrate?
How does that help? Increase.
Sir, yes, sir.
If you increase, then depletion width will be reduced. Na?
No, sir. If we want NMOS, we'll be having substrate P type, no? Uh, for more P plus region, we'll be having a lesser minority carriers.
On the contrary, think about it. WDM is a depletion width, so we have to increase the depletion width. So earlier the depletion width was somewhere here. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So
P
in
mi-
our
P mi- we should
in
take
our
P minus.
theory, yes. So increase nahi decrease karna hai. Okay,
Yes.
got it. Because in our diode theory, in our theory for the diodes, when we were dealing with the diode modeling, we had seen that if we are talking about one-sided junction, that means N plus and P. Okay, the depletion region will extend on the lowly doped side. So if we want to ensure even though our device is going to be anyway scaled or size will be smaller, even then if I want to ensure that the WDM is maximum possible, then what we have to do is you have to reduce the doping of the substrate. So that is the engineering technique. Okay. And once we do this technology, what I'm talking about, we will essentially discuss this much details later. It's called UTB. इसका full form किसको पता है? Ultra thin body. Okay. But this ultra thin body is a technical term. However, industry goes by the term called thin film transistors or TFTs. We used to say, no, TFT screens. Yeah, have you heard that? TFT panel. So this is the thin film transistor panels. Okay, so we will look into that in the next few classes when we deal with the solutions of short channel effects. Yes. Hello, Ashok, tell me.
Sir, to decrease the oxide thickness, one thing is
Hello.
like we are using hafnium oxide, right, sir? I mean, but hello,
No, that is
sir, am I
about
audible?
tunneling. We will again look into that. Yes, you are audible. But one thing is, hafnium oxide is essentially being taken care of because, I mean, to suppress the tunneling event. That is also one of the issues of short channel effects, which I have not written over here. Just for the sake of completion, I put off current here, just to show that off current increasing is actually a bad thing. Okay. For example, we have seen over here let us say this power delay product here, or let us say power density. Power density is k cube and k squared, which is a very, very bad thing. Similarly, off current increasing is also a bad thing, but it is not mitigated by simply constant field scaling or constant voltage scaling. So irrespective of whether you are constant field scaling or constant voltage scaling, it is always going to increase. Okay, so that's a problem of short channel effect. So we'll have to look into it and try to find out the engineering solutions to it. Okay, we will do it in the next few classes. Don't worry. Okay, so by the time this semester is over, you will all become experts. And that is the knowledge base I require for advanced VLSI design. So those of your friends who are in embedded or some other courses, I mean, they will simply be kind of, blank when they come in the next course. Because over there, I will not be explaining all this, these scaling theories over there anymore. Okay, that's all for today. Thank you so much. And just stop.